The air was electric. Outside the London Palladium, a wave of people surged forward, young girls shrieking and waving banners, their excitement building to a fever pitch. For weeks, the anticipation had been building, but no one quite expected this. The Beatles were set to appear on ITV's Sunday night at the London Palladium, and although they were already causing ripples, tonight would solidify their place in British pop culture. Yet, inside the Palladium, the four lads from Liverpool seemed unfazed. John, glancing sideways at Paul, raised an eyebrow. "Fancy this, eh?" "All this for us," John said, half smiling, his voice thick with Liverpudlian mischief. Paul grinned back, but there was a trace of nervousness. "It's mad, isn't it? But just you wait. This is only the beginning." Little did they know, it truly was. The year was 1963, and Britain was undergoing a transformation. The post-war years were fading, and a new wave of youth culture was emerging, filled with energy, rebellion, and optimism. But it wasn't just about music. It was a time when television had become a centerpiece of British life, and appearing on Sunday night at the London Palladium was the pinnacle of mainstream success. The show, known for drawing millions of viewers, was the place to be if you wanted to be taken seriously. The Beatles, who had already charmed audiences with their cheeky banter and catchy tunes, were stepping into an entirely new level of fame. Backstage, George adjusted the collar of his suit jacket, casting a glance toward Ringo, who was tapping lightly on his knees, the rhythm steady even in his anticipation. "You nervous, Ringo?" Ringo chuckled. "Me? Nah, just making sure I keep up with you lot." For the four young men, this moment was a dream realized. But it wasn't without its roots. They had slogged their way through the Liverpool club scene and endured the harsh conditions of Hamburg's nightclubs, refining their act. By the time they stood on the Palladium stage, they were a finely tuned machine, ready to take on the world, or at least the United Kingdom for now. As the curtains drew back and the spotlight hit them, the roar of the crowd was deafening. Screams echoed through the Palladium, fans overwhelmed by the sight of their idols. The Beatles smiled, took it all in, and delivered a performance that, while only a few songs long, was enough to send the entire nation buzzing. Their infectious energy, charm, and unmistakable harmonies were something fresh, something the audience hadn't quite seen before. They were a breath of fresh air in a world that had been waiting for something exciting. It wasn't just about the music. It was their personality, their carefree attitude, their wit. As John later quipped in an interview, "We just did our thing, all this fuss. It's a bit funny, isn't it?" But beneath that humor, there was a serious shift happening. This wasn't merely another TV performance. It was a cultural moment. The Beatles had crossed over from being a band into becoming icons, and with this appearance, Beatlemania was born. The performance reached over 15 million viewers, nearly a third of the population. Suddenly, these four boys from Liverpool weren't just musicians. They were symbols of a new era. By the time they stepped off the stage, their lives had changed forever. In the days that followed, news outlets couldn't stop talking about them. They were on the front pages, and the term Beatlemania started to make headlines. The fandom was now a national phenomenon, and the Beatles were at the forefront of it all, standing as pioneers of a new British invasion that would soon sweep across the globe. But for John, Paul, George, and Ringo, that night at the Palladium was just another gig, albeit a very loud one. As they left the stage, John leaned toward Paul, still grinning. "Well, mate, we didn't mess that one up, did we?" Paul laughed. "No, we didn't. But get ready. I think things are about to get a lot louder." And louder it did get. The performance at the London Palladium wasn't just the beginning of Beatlemania. It was the launchpad for a cultural revolution that would change the landscape of music, media, and fandom forever.